a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Morning, everybody. Hello.
Would you please stand?
Sherry, stand by the microphone.
Stand by the microphone.
Yes,
Okay, that's better. Okay. Could you please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Could you please silence your phones? Okay.
Stand like right here,
Right in front, okay, all right. As you can see, I'm not used to doing this, so please be kind to me today. All right, we're going to ask that you be respectful of people today and be respectful of their views and their opinions and be respectful of time. We are going to present some proposed information on the 2025 budget and how we got to some of the data and the analysis that we did through that. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Candy Ruggiero, and I am a member of the Long Range Planning Committee. And I'd like to introduce Les Bethany. He is a member of the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee. And thank the committees for all the hard work and the research and the data putting all of this information together. I'd also like to thank the chairs and co-chairs of the committees who have been such an invaluable resource to us in being that conduit between the committees and to the board. And I personally would like to thank the board for the multitude of hours that they volunteer and their passion in making this community the community that we all love so dearly. Oh, thank you. All right, we can go to the first slide.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Next slide.
Next one.
You can click on the.
Uh-oh, they're going to have me do technology? Where do I point? Okay. This is kind of the agenda that we're going to go through this morning. First of all, I would like to, where do I point this? There we go. I want to give just an overview. I mean, most of you already know this, but just kind of an overview of the process and how this awesome community of Sun City works. We are an independent community, a volunteer community, and we have a lot of responsibilities here. So first I wanted to kind of go through the levels of documents that we have. The first one is our Articles of Incorporation. That says who we are. And then the next level, the bylaws, say what we do. And then the next level, the board policies, how do we do this? And we have kind of a balancing act that we have to do between the unlimited wants of the community and the limited resources that we have. And the committees worked very diligently, I think it was toward the end of last year, to update and publicize the mission, vision, and value statement that we have. So we want to emphasize the fact that we are a member-driven organization, but with the limited resources we have to be very careful on how we spend your hard-earned money. Okay. Am I pointing in the wrong spot?
Where did she point out?
Just press the button, you don't have to aim it.
Just press the button.
I am pressing the button. There it goes. Prior to 2024, I have to admit, we had a little bit of challenge with transparency and communicating information to our members. And member input was limited and not as done in transparency as we would have liked to have seen. Toward the end of the summer and approved last month, we revised the Board Policy 16 to encourage member involvement and get recommendations from member committees. So we talked about how the structure of the community works. Now I'd like to just kind of give you an idea of the people that are involved. We have the COC, the Club Organization Committee. They are the interface with the multitude of clubs that we have in our 8 recreation centers and what these clubs need as far as keeping their clubs running smoothly, any issues that they may have. We're going to be looking at expanding their responsibilities to take a look at maybe the lower level expenses of the club and determine what can be handled more on that club level. Maybe it's a maintenance issue or a light bulb that's out, and get them going into the right avenues to get their stuff done. 2 of the standing committees, the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee and Long Range Planning Committee, are working very closely now with the update to that BP 16 in making sure that the big expense items, the bigger ticket items, have a process to go through, that we can be making informed decisions on where our monies are going to be allocated. I think that's Les?
Thank you. Before I start the financial part, I just want to address a couple of things in here. I know a lot of people have come here expecting to hear some in detail about how the budget process works. And then to address the elephant in the room, I'm sure that people have either read or heard that we're going to have a substantial increase in our assessments this next year. That is incorrect. That is correct. That is the recommendation of the Finance and Budget Committee, okay? So you probably anticipate also that we're going to come in here and justify and rationalize and give you a logical reason for that increase. That is also correct. So we hope to kind of give you an idea on how the budget process works a little and be a little more transparent. Now, in terms of the transparency heretofore in the past, it hasn't really been totally non-transparent. Any member is always welcome to attend committee meetings. Committee meetings are open to any paying member of this community. You can attend the budget meetings, then we have them throughout the year. Now, we used to have like 3 or 4 a year. We're having more now. So we're getting a little more in depth in terms of how the budget is put together and what it encompasses. But you're sure welcome to attend. Those things are out there on the website and are welcome. So the transparency part is not totally opaque, hasn't been. You've always had the capability. We just don't see a whole lot of people showing up, and I understand that. I don't go to a lot of other committee meetings outside of the one I'm on, and I attend those. So I go to meetings like this to get informed about other things that are going on. So that is kind of what we're hoping to do, to give you a high-level overview of the budget proposal for next year, and a bit of a high-level overview of what our plan is for the next 5 years, and talk about how we got there and why we're doing what we're doing, and the rationalization for what we're doing, okay? Yeah.
Right there.
That's good. As you can see on the thing, it says, over the years, while inflation relentlessly marched on, RCSC chose to deal with rising costs by not raising annual assessments. Now, we did not. We didn't raise assessments for like 6 years. That was kind of cool for those of us who are paying those. Everybody in this room, myself included, we write that check every year for those assessments. Well, they didn't increase for a long time. And we increased them last year, and the idea is there are going to be some increases moving forward to try to keep up with inflation, but we'll get to some of that here in a minute. As a result, employee salaries and wages did not improve or increase much at all during that particular period of time, resulting in a pretty substantial staff turnover. Now, that 40% is pretty hefty. We'll never go down a lot in that because a lot of employees here in Sun City are Sun Citians. And by virtue of the fact of this community being what it is, we'll always have a little bit of turnover, particularly in the part-time ranks of people deciding to quit work here in Sun City. So the goal was to see if we could drop that 40% turnover rate down closer to 30. And by doing that, we had to address wage issues, and you can't keep people if you're not paying them a comparable wage to what they could get somewhere else around or near the community. Another thing we did, and we used to not budget at all for capital expenditures. I'm talking about those larger expenditures that don't quite meet the PIF, the $300,000 threshold. So we used to kind of rely on our excess at the end of the year, and if we had a $5 or $6 million excess at the end of the budget year or the fiscal year, then that was kind of like what we used for capital expenditures. That changed this year. We're now budgeting for capital expenditures, and it has been noticed around the community in terms of what we're doing. So the lack of planning and budgeting for those resulted, I think, actually in a decline in appearance of some RCSC buildings, golf courses, the appearance. And we've addressed that, and we're in the process of addressing that, okay? Here is just a partial list of some of the things that have been done this year. That's not a full list, just a partial list of what has transpired and what we've done this year. And all the different rec centers, Bell, Marinette, Fairway, Mountain View, Lakeview, some of the things that have been done, from improved lighting to painting to some safety issues, security issues, canopies, resurfacing many golf areas. So this is just a partial example of what has been done this year. Excuse me. In terms of capital expenditures. Those are not just operational expenditures, but capital expenditures, which actually help keep our centers and golf courses up to par, okay? Vehicles, lighting, game areas, pool decking. You guys can read that list. And it has been pretty substantial this year, as we've heard from members. Okay, let's talk about the proposed 25 operating budget. Now, this is an extremely high-level overview, talking about major revenues and major expenses. Now, this is not broken down. We can talk more fully about some of these at the end of the presentation part for Q&As. But I don't think sometimes members have an idea on how big this organization is. It's massive. It's close to a $30 million annual operation. Let that sink in. Actually, it was a surprise to me to find out how big it was when I first got on the Finance and Budget Committee. Like, I didn't realize it was in the 20s of millions of dollars that we're spending each and every year to operate this wonderful community that we have, with all the rec centers, the golf courses, Sundial, softball, things that we've got going on that make it so enjoyable to live here in this community. So we're looking at 29, just shy of $30 million projected income. And then the very first thing you look down at the expenses, over 50% of our expenses are wages and benefits. It's employee cost. Everything else pales in significance. Now, those of you who have looked at financials before of companies understand that that's always the case. Your employee expenses are always a major part of doing business. Well, we're sure no different here. With increased wages this last year, particularly the year before that and this last year, and as a result, the turnover has indeed come down a bit. Okay, we're able to retain people. You know, just a quick example, if you have someone that is working at the golf course or driving a lawnmower, and they can go down the road and get the same job for $1 more or $2 more an hour, those people are pretty inclined to do that. So we've tried to address, and when I say we, I mean we don't make these calls. Management has come to us and said, look, these are the deals. This is the data that we're looking at. And they have been proponents of doing this so we can cut down. If we can cut the turnover rate down, then actually that is better for the community because you don't have to rehire and rehire and rehire, which is expensive to do. Not only that, leaving empty spots in those employee rosters to serve us as residents and members. So the turnover rate has indeed dropped down. Wages have been increased a bit, and we're going to attempt to excuse me, keep up with that going forward so we can retain employees. Now, we all know, and we'll look at another slide here in a second, but everybody in this room is paying higher gas prices. If you have natural gas, you're paying higher natural gas prices. You're paying way higher insurance prices than we used to for both automobile and homeowners insurance. And RCSC is no different. Our insurance costs are, I think, exceedingly high, but that's the current state of affairs. You can see down at the bottom of that the insurance premium increase. Now, when we first went out, and I say we, I mean as a community, insurance committee does this, the first proposals they got were for a 40% increase in our insurance rates. Man, my insurance at home didn't go It went up, but not that much. And they were able to shop around and drop that down to a 26% increase. Pretty substantial still, but lower than 40. So that is that high-level overview. We're looking at almost $30 million of revenue, $16 million in employee expenses, and then the repairs, maintenance, utilities, projects, general operating expenses. And the bottom line on this, after insurance and everything else, is a $550,000 excess. Now, from our perspective, members' perspective and budget perspective and management's perspective, that number always has to be a positive. We don't go into debt. We don't borrow money. We always budget, and we budget conservatively. And people who know me know I am Mr. Conservative in every possible definition of that term. But everybody in that committee knows we have to budget conservatively. We can't overestimate revenues and underestimate expenses. Can't happen. So if anything, we underestimate revenues by a little and overestimate expenses by a little, just to ensure that we're going to hit that nut and have a little bit. Now, in years past, that number was pretty substantial. This year, we budgeted for capital expenditure projects, which we noticed on that last page. So the excess is a little smaller budgeted this year, but still up to $500,000. All right? This is a fun slide, and we've seen this. Anybody's lived out here for any length of time that has come to any of the orientation sessions or the yearly sessions that we've done for years and years and years. Jan used to do them, every year. And we'd see this slide. And it always has an impact on me when I look at this, because throughout now these are all Sun City. There's other 55 plus communities around this country, obviously tens of thousands of them probably. But this is kind of a comparison of fees. And now the top one shows $575. That's what we paid this year. So these are current fees, 2024's. So how we compare to Sun City West, Texas, Illinois, Nevada, California, Sun City Grand, Sun City Festival, and you can see what these people in these other communities are paying for their annual assessments. Sun City is still the lowest by far, by half of the next closest. And it's been that way since I've been a member out here, and I've lived out here for 10 years. We've always had the lowest assessment. Now, just to acknowledge, yes, we are probably the largest. Now, I'm not talking about, what's that place in Florida? The Villages. I don't think we're that big, but that's not on here, and their costs are through the roof as far as I'm aware. Our economies of scale help us keep our figures down as far as we can. We got 40,000 people live out here, 27,000 homes. So our costs are spread over a wide array of people and a large number of people and residences. So that just shows you I think the red is all Arizona. Yeah, like mine is not colored, and I can't see that far. I can see the colors, but I'm pretty sure that's what they all are. So the comparison is pretty substantial and pretty positive for us. Now we're going to talk about, this is how we arrived at the assessment increase, and part of the justification for that. From 17 to 24, the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, and we're all affected by inflation. You are, I am, they are, RCSC is. It's been a 31% increase, cumulative, over that, 7, 8 years? Now see that this is kind of confusing right here. The assessment to 575, which was this year, so what we paid, was like a 16% increase from 2017. With the new assessment, the recommended of 650, there I said it, you've heard it, you've read it, I'm sure. That's why I addressed it right up front. It's 31%, which pretty well matches the Consumer Price Index. And down below that are just some of the reasons that we had to do something like this, or that we're recommending this increase. The cost of fertilizer, natural gas, fuel, electricity, grass seed. And you'll notice the Arizona minimum wage law has increased like 78% since 2017. And guess what? We got over 300 employees throughout RCSC. A lot of people. That's when the voters elected to do a minimum wage increase. And to be honest, I really never thought too much about that when it happened, about what the impact was going to be on our community. But it's been pretty substantial because we have a lot of part-timers out there. A huge amount are Sun Cityans. Now, they benefited from the wage increases, but the community was hit pretty hard with that. So we had to budget for that, and that's an ongoing thing. So those are some of the things that have gone up, and the amounts that they have gone up. Now, when I say 31, 16 or 21, 31, depending on whether you're looking at 575 or 650, and that 31% CPI increase overall. Now, we all know most of that increase has occurred over the last 4 years.
Go faster.
Okay. Oh, I guess we need to move it on, don't we? So the part of the rationale for not raising assessments over those years, the actual inflation was not as high as it has been in the last few years. It's really bumped up a lot. Hence the need for raising assessments and making sure our revenues match expenses. Five-year plan. Here's a projection of where we could be going. And keep in mind, it's just a projection. We're looking at 650 this year. That's going to be the recommendation to the board. Huh? Oh, okay. There we go. And then, henceforth, a smaller increase of $26, $27 a year. That is a 4%. So I told you we'd look at a 5-year plan, sort of, or projection. And that's what we're looking at this point in time. Now, obviously, that 4% could change. Could become 3, could become 5, depending upon inflation and where we're at, the current state of events, okay? So it does recommend or represent a pretty substantial increase this year. Yep. And a smaller one for years going forward. And then the bottom of that is the SIF fees and PIF fees, which the people paying here or sitting in here don't pay those. Hope you all understand that. Difference between what the assessments are and what the SIF and PIF fees, where that money comes from. That comes from people who buy a house in Sun City, pay one-time fee, okay? And a projection of what those are looking at, okay, for years to come. Kenny?
Great job, Les. I'm glad he's the numbers guy and not me. Math wasn't my biggest thing. Pardon me?
Stand in front of the microphone.
Stand in front of the microphone, okay. The next section that I wanted to go through is some of the changes that we made in the recently updated Board Policy 16. And in collaboration with a lot of people, management, the Budget and Finance Committee, the Long Range Planning Committee, we are evolving a process that's going to provide us with additional data and rationale on why some of these projects are coming up. And as you can see, there's some really big ticket items coming up. But we want to make sure that we're spending the money in the right places, and the research behind it identifies the needs of the general members in the community and eliminates some of the, I'm going to say this lovingly, the knee-jerk reaction to things and special interest groups, that we're spending the money for the general community. So one of the biggest things that BP 16 is going to be implementing is something called a business case form. And the Long Range Planning Committee is diligently working with management on drafting this form to make it a uniform system for members, committees to ask for funds from us. It's going to provide data, it's going to provide the whys behind it, the justifications, and it's going to create a history back and forth of how these decisions are made. And I feel this is going to be a really important benefit for our board of directors, so that they have the information, the recommendations from these major committees on how to better able to make their decisions. So that's something that is going to be evolving in the future. Long-range planning and the Finance and Budget Committee are those gateways to the Board of Directors.
Go back. Left button. Need one more.
No,
You're on this slide.
I'm sorry.
There. You're on that slide now.
Okay. One of the things that I really want to put out there, this is just a forecast. This is not cast in stone. There's been a lot of fluid number movings, and based on a lot of different outside sources like the ADWR water requirements and those kinds of things. So this is a very fluid document where the budget is kind of set each year. We're now going out 5, 10, and in some cases 20 years to project the needs of the community, but get that balance of the resources that we have coming in, and to minimize the impact that's going to have on our members' wallets. So these are just an idea of the forecast going forward out to 2030, God willing, we're all still here, all right? And then where those monies are going to come from. And please keep in mind, there are resources out there for our members that maybe are struggling. We're all being impacted by this inflation. There are resources out there to help our members that are financially challenged. And this is just giving that information, the Sun City Foundation, and how they can be reached. So just in summary, we went through that budget process. Les did a great job with the numbers there, how we're coming up with these numbers with the revised BP 16, some of the rationale behind the fee increase that we're all kind of gritting our teeth with. So what I'd like to do is open it up to questions. Now, please stick to the subjects that we're talking about this morning so we can be respectful of your time. We're not going to give you a time clock on this, but please be respectful of people that have questions behind you, and please be respectful of the people and the speakers that are here. We will end the meeting at noon so that our grumbling stomachs aren't going to be bothering other people. We do have another town hall scheduled for Wednesday evening right here at 5:30. So if you do have additional questions that we didn't get to today, you're more than welcome to do that, or use some of the other avenues that we have, the board meetings and the exchange meetings, to bring your concerns and questions to. So we're going to open up the microphone here.
Good morning, Kathy Sia, 154188. And I want to address the membership fees. I feel like the membership fees obviously need to go up. Inflation has driven everything. But I also want to mention that they're very discriminatory to single people. The slide that you showed for Sun City West, it's really $575 per person. And as a single in Sun City, I pay $575. And if they go up, I'm going to pay $650. So I'm going to be paying more than Sun City West. So that slide is somewhat misleading. And I think that when these rates were established, they were established in the 60s, where everybody that bought a house was a couple. Not true now. How many singles do we have in Sun City? A lot. And so we're paying basically double what a couple is paying. And even like if you have two people in the house, excuse me, the owner is paying the $575, but if they have someone that's living with them that they are not married to, they're paying an extra $275. So they're paying $850 basically for two, where once again, married couple is paying $575. Very discriminatory as far as I'm concerned. Also, I want to talk about the daily guest fees, which are part of everything that goes on with the budget. And the daily guest fees in Sun City West are, if you're under 18, they're $4 a day. If you're over 18, they're $6 a day. We pay $2.50 for guest fees. I think that needs to be raised. And some of the clubs have mentioned that, well, they can't be a club if, we limit it to 14 times. Well, maybe they shouldn't be a club if they're in Sun City and they can't get enough Sun City residents to be in their club. So, they're not going to go to Sun City West because they'd have to pay $6 every time they went there, where they come here and they only pay $2.50. And that's true for a lot of the clubs. I actually work at the...
The guest fees are not really part of our discussion today. You should keep just to the budget.
Okay, I thought that probably came into the budget somehow. They don't...
Not so much.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Then once again, I'm just back to the membership fees, that as a single person, I think they need to look at what they're actually charging based on members in the household, not if you're a married couple. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And really, you don't need your membership numbers today. It's not a board meeting or an exchange, so just your name is fine for us.
Okay, Robert Court. I'm going to address exactly what she just addressed. Our bylaws of the corporation prescribe that all the qualification of members and the terms of admission to membership, provided that voting rights of all members shall be equal. All members shall have equal rights and privileges and be subject or subjected to equal responsibilities. That's our assessment fees. And it's supposed to be equal per members, and it's not equal per members. If there's one member in this house and there's two members in this house, that Ray Charles can see that's not equal. It's just not an equal thing. If two people are paying and they're becoming a member in good standing, and they're getting these rights and privileges, and one person here is paying the same money and getting their rights and privileges, then that's just not equal. Our bylaws even say that it's not equal because they grandfathered people in a long time ago, and they said they're going to pay half of what everybody else is paying. And this is exactly what she brought up. You're going to raise our assessments, and you're going to, if people believe me behind me that you're going to do this 4% thing in these years ahead, it's not going to be true. And if a single person is here, a single deed, I'm not trying to pit the singles against the marrieds. I'm just saying if you're a single person here, this is supposed to be equal per member, and it's not. And that's your own articles of incorporation. Now, it says you can write a bylaw that determines that method, and that's what you did. You wrote a bylaw, or not you guys personally, but the RCSC wrote a bylaw. And in the very first thing it says is each property and its owners assessed for each and every owner at the rate of half of the annual property assessment fee. That's when they grandfathered those people in. You're paying half. Now that automatically says it's not equal. But then it goes on to do the per property thing where there's one person or there's two people, and that's not equal either. And so if we're going to be charging these assessment fees year after year and increase them, maybe nobody cried for those years that it wasn't increased, but now it's being increased. And it's time that we fix the issue where everybody's not paying equal.
Well, I understand your concern, and the concept here was not so much, certainly in the past, because you note the grandfathering, that many years ago it was apparently a per person type of fee, but it was clearly switched to a per roof or per household fee, which we all signed on to when we bought here.
You're speaking of the facilities agreement? What are you saying that we all signed on to? What do you sign on to?
Well, when you bought a home here, you agreed to
A facilities agreement.
Yes.
Correct? So let's look at the facilities agreement just for a minute, because that's what everybody likes to argue about, is this facilities agreement, and I'll do that.
Well, let's make this.
Well, I'll make
we have
this-
lots of folks, so go
Okay,
ahead real
yeah.
quickly.
Nobody
now.
else wanted to step up, so I'm doing this. So your facilities agreement say that each and every owner must pay an assessment fee, okay? And it says that those things can be changed from time to time, and they can be changed at any time. These corporate bylaws, the article of incorporation can be changed at any time. So this facilities agreement that guarantees you something doesn't guarantee you anything, because it says the RCSC can change those corporate bylaws and board policies and any other rules and regulations of the corporations, and they can be amended at any time. So you can actually change the bylaw that gets rid of this 2-for-1 deal. There's nothing in this facilities agreement that you sign that's a legal document that gives you a 2-for-1 deal. The only thing that gives you a 2-for-1 deal is the bylaw. And the bylaw should have never been written because Article 5, Section 3 says the board can't make a bylaw that's in conflict with the article. And the article says it's supposed to be even or equal per member. They're supposed to have equal responsibilities to get the same equal rights and the same equal privileges. And so when they wrote that bylaw in 2003, they violated their article of incorporation. And that's what you guys have mentioned up here. We're a board that's concerned about the article of incorporation. We got to follow those articles of incorporation. We got to follow our bylaws. And those two things are in conflict with each other. They are not the same. And there's nothing in your facilities agreement that says you can't change it at any time. And if you're going to keep raising these prices, I think it's about time you change it in favor that everyone pays equal amount of money. It's not that difficult to do. Let's say, for instance, you're doing a 5-year budget, right? So let's go back 5 years and find out how many deeded owners you've had for the last 5 years, divide that by 5, and come up with a number of members per household. And when you come up with that number, and you say you come up with 30,000 people, and the general manager said, I need $12 million. All he has to do is take out his calculator and divide 12 million by 30,000 and say, hey, everybody pays $400. Now, that can't be that difficult. And if you go back to Sun City West, the little graph that you wanted to show with the Sun City West, she's exactly right. Because when I called Sun City West and asked why don't they do it like Sun City, they said, and 3 different people on 3 different times over a year period all said the same thing. We don't do it the way Sun City does it because it violates our articles of incorporation. That's exactly what they told me.
Okay.
And when I asked this board, they goes, well, I don't know. That was 7 years ago. I've been here for 8 years. After I found out that it wasn't equal for everybody, and I asked the board here, they said, well, we don't really know. So I called Sun City West. It violates their articles of incorporation. That's what they said. And so in Sun City, everybody wants to use Sun City West as their argument. Whatever it is, golfing doesn't do it this way because Sun City West, whatever. But Sun City West charges, and I'll go right off Sun City West thing here. And I know I'm taking up a little bit of time, but I'm going to finish this thing out. I don't care.
Well, I will just to make
Sun City West has a owner member due. They have an associate member fee. They have a landlord additional card, and they have a tenant activity card, and they all charge exactly the same thing per year. Every single one of those people. But in this city, if you're an owner and you're a single deeded owner, and then you're a tenant or you're a renter just down the street, you pay half of what the person here that has skin in the game, the person that owns the building, that owns the house, it's part of the member. And there's nothing that you guys are going to do. I don't care if it's a rec facility. I don't care if it's all these budget things you guys got going on. For everything there is, there's nothing that affects 100% of the people than the assessment fee. It affects everybody. All the rest of the stuff affects the small, minute membership. It don't matter what you're going to fix on there.
Sir,
it's going to fix.
you've made your point. Other people would like to talk.
Are they right behind me? Okay.
Yes, they're
I made my
right there,
point.
standing there.
Okay.
Good morning, I'm Richie Miller. For the budget to be a little more transparent, for the large, just piece of your budget, labor, I think you should present a 2-year quarterly head count by classification. That will guide you in determining the biggest piece of your budget. Understood?
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Scott Berger. I just want to say that I think the fees are a bargain. I just looked up, and we've only been here a couple of years. If I wanted to go back to where I lived in Wisconsin as a single person, as a senior, to belong to the YMCA, my annual fee as a single person is $600. And it has nothing compared to what Sun City has. I didn't move, my wife and I didn't move here because we wanted to move to a low-income community. We moved here because of what the facilities were, what the activities were. We wanted an active, older adult community where there were things to do. If I wanted to just guard my money and live the cheapest way possible, I would have stayed up north, covered myself in blankets in the winter, and watched TV all day. But that's not why I retired here. So I think these are cheap fees.
Thank you.
I'm Lois Robinson, 53367. I just want to say, I want to trust, and I became more of a believer in the operation of this community. I was impressed. Of course, I can be impressed by color and all the graphs, but I do have, I have a past in government budgeting, and things that we had to do in the particular town budget was to reduce things. The biggest cost, as you've said, is employees. You got to have them. Okay, have you, I found that as well. Have you considered certain services, going out and contracting for services, such as mowing the lawns? You know, what that entails, the employee is the unit, as you know. You have all the things, workers' comp, you have insurance, you have everything, not just the salary folded into that employee. But then if you have a service mowing the lawn, you don't have to pay for the maintenance of the lawnmowers. You don't replace the lawnmowers. You don't do all of that. The general manager or his manager that's over the golf courses is in charge of making sure they do a good job. If they don't, it's in the contract, service contract of that company. And I hope you run all your contracts past the lawyers to look at everything on the contracts. That means if they are, you can defer to some legal action if they don't do well on the services. Everybody's in it to, that you have a job to make money, including these service companies. And that takes so much off of the corporation or this organization. If you move that employee cost, that's your big, big cost. You're always going to have a certain amount. You've got management. You have to, and that's going to continue to go up. But I can tell you from experience, it makes a big difference in the budget. One other thing I wanted to ask you about. I'm confused with the PIF and the capital. I looked up everything and I'm thinking, okay, where does that 6,000 or whatever it is now, what fund and who is controlling that money? What committee? What fund?
The Preservation and Improvement Fund, forecast for that goes through the Long Range Planning Committee.
Okay.
The Capital Improvement Fund is money that is spent on maintenance-related items, capital things that need to be repaired. One of the things the management has done in the last year is put together a reserve
Cash reserve
study, which is forecasted for all of the equipment and buildings and things that we have, their life expectancy, so we have that money available to be able to make sure that when those things are needed to be replaced, that we have the funds to be able to do that. So the SIF goes into that, and the PIF goes into large projects that are over $300,000 that have a long lifetime, like buildings and things of that sort.
So the assessment that what we're talking about, 575, is operating funds,
Yes.
correct? That's the day-to-day, that amount.
For the most part, yes. Some of it goes into maintenance also, but also it's operations and maintenance, yes.
Okay. One last question. Would there be any changes to this proposed budget after these two budget hearings? Would you be doing any changes to the bottom line with input from people? Is that a consideration?
Potentially, yes. Alan, I think if you could go to slide 23 or roughly something like that. It's one of our backup slides. So it's not that one. Keep going. And towards the front of the deck of the backup slides. That's the one. So this is to totally confuse everybody as much as possible.
Yes.
But your question is one we get all the time about PIF and SIF and assessments and where does this money go and how is that allocated and what is that restricted to and so on and so forth. And in my infinite lack of wisdom, perhaps, I put this together to try and explain that. So if you look way over on the right-hand side, that's the PIF. And that is funds that come from when someone buys a home here.
Okay.
And it is segregated into that fund and only used for these big projects that are greater than $300,000 and 15 years life. This is the big ticket items.
Okay.
Okay? The SIF funds way over on the left that there is also a portion of the closing costs on a home that goes into that fund, but there's also an allocation from your annual assessment that goes into that fund.
Okay.
And that's intended, as Preston was trying to explain, these are the projects that don't meet the PIF requirements, basically. They're shorter, smaller in dollar amount, and they don't have a long life expectancy. But we see them all the time, whether it's just painting something or fixing part of a pool or whatever. There's dozens and dozens and dozens. And there was a slide earlier where we had showed all of the things that we were trying to work on, and that was just a partial list, but I think there was over $6 million this year alone that was basically coming from that fund. Then in the middle is where that's the operating budget.
Okay.
So that assessment that we're talking about today is needed to fund, that's where all the revenues come from, basically, to fund all of the operating expenses. And then when at the end of the day, if there's an excess, first check and make sure that the operating reserves, which is about $2.5 million, it's kind of a rainy day fund, make sure we still have $2.5 million. And if there's still something left over, it can go to the SIF and help fund that. But at the end of the day, the operating budget basically nets out to zero.
Okay. One last question. Could you explain to me how I was on the bowling team for 2 seasons?
Congratulations.
I wasn't good, but anyway, where the fees that I paid in, how does the club fees, what do they pay for? Do they pay for rental of the bowling alley or the facility? When I pay my dues, does it go for our Christmas party? Does it come back into the operating fund? Any of those club dues? Where do
I think that stays with the club.
Your club dues that you pay to join a club stay within the club.
And so then they have their, so then they have control of it.
Bowling goes into the normal income as well as their expenses. There is no bowling club. There are bowling leagues, which are part of the operation of the bowling alley.
Right. So that, but there are monies. My dues say it's $40. It's not what, so some of that, goes back to the operating budget.
Well,
if you belong
indirectly.
to the Knitters Club and you pay $10 to join, it stays in the club.
And the way that could impact you is, say the Knitters Club decides they want to buy a piece of equipment, and they buy it from their own funds. It doesn't come from the SIF now.
Okay.
So those funds that would normally have gone into SIF and funded something like that are free for some other purpose, or in the future, it means that that annual assessment would not need to be as large because you're funding for things internally. So when we talk about, and this came up the other day in the exchange meeting, we're looking to try and find other sources of revenue. We have a limited, it's a captured group. There's only so many households. We're not building more homes. We can't, there's a limited number of sources to look to for revenue. So to the extent that a foundation can raise some funds, or a club can raise some funds that can offset what would otherwise have to come from one of these pools of money, that's a win-win for everybody.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Fred Brown. What I'm very concerned about, and I have been ever since I moved in here, this fee, and they call it get charged for a roof, is so out of line, and it should have been addressed a long time ago. What was not brought up, or it wouldn't have been gone through, I don't know how in the hell it went through, but if you stop and think about it, I'm single. Okay, I get a Social Security check, correct? My next door neighbor is married and they get 2 Social Security checks. With inflation going up and everything like that, a lot of people can't live on just their Social Security check, so they get part-time jobs or whatever. I got to work part-time. I get 1 check. Married couple, they go out and work. They got 2 checks coming in. So this is so unfair to me that there's so much more money coming into these households as a married couple than a single person. Thank you.
I have to say that one of the big reasons why the corporation went to a property assessment as opposed to a person assessment, it's very difficult for the corporation to know, is there 1 or 2 people living in the house? For the most part, you know, you'd have to go and poll everybody. So if 2 people are living in a house, the corporation does not necessarily know that. So that's one of the big reasons why I went to, because it's a lot easier to be able to project income as a result of it. It's a lot easier also to assess correctly how many people are actually there that should be paying into it. So this made the way to be able to budget and forecast things a lot clearer for the corporation, because we know exactly what's coming in. If we don't know how many people are to live in the house, we don't know how many people to charge. That's a very difficult thing to do.
I don't know how that's difficult, because if you do your job, excuse me, I'm not being rude, but if you do your job and you go to the households and find out, it's real.
But sir, that would require us to go to 30,000 houses every year, and that's probably just not worthwhile. You can't do it.
Go ahead.
3 or 4 times a year.
Ken Hagan, I have a couple of items I think I'd like to talk about. One is the issue about being fair with all of the residents here, property owners. My daughter lives here, and this kind of goes back to the same issue about the rec fees. She's not 55, but she can still own property, but she can't use her rec fee. She's not out. She cannot use her rec card. When she comes down to visit, she has to go as our guest, and we have to pay separate for her. So that doesn't sound fair and equal to me either. And you know, it's almost like that's an age discrimination, and I know this issue's come up a couple times, and I don't know what the actual result of it is, but that's a concern both I have and my daughter has. A couple years, that won't be an issue because she'll turn 55 and she'll be able to use it. She's an absent loaner. She does not live here. She just owns property here. Okay. The other issue is, my understanding is, and this is just through the rumor mill, and I didn't see any slides up here concerning what next year's projections are going to be for the full fee golf membership. And I realize that we all have our own special interests. Some of us are adamant pickleball. Some of us are adamant golf. There are people that bowl, or all those things. Golf, we have to pay a user fee. I believe bowling has to pay a user fee. If you're looking for additional revenue sources, you need to consider user fees and all the other activities that people are doing here. Why is it that revenue that's created by everybody, or by the rec fees and golf and bowling and everything else, also subsidizes some of those other activities like pickleball or lawn bowling or whatever it might be? So yeah, I think user fees is something that you need to really look at. And I know this is brought up and been brought up before because I've brought it up before. So those are just some issues and comments that I have.
Thank you.
My name is Paula Sandoval, and I'd like to speak to the issue of your daughter. We are discriminatory. We are a 55-plus community, and we want to keep it that way. Terrible things happen to Youngtown. Yes, someone younger than 55 can buy a home and can rent it out or what have you and move here when they're 55. We pay our fees per title. That's how Sun City is set up. Sun City West is per person on title. Perhaps if you'd like it another way, perhaps consider moving to Sun City West. But here in Sun City, we are per title, and it's always been that way. It would be a nightmare to count people. You say there's 40,000 houses, that's per title. That's all. Thanks for all your work.
Hello, Steve Collins. Just a couple things. I'm sitting back there listening. The one issue with owning property and you're under the age 55, that's because of the overlay, and we want to protect that overlay, or we could lose it and I'll have to start paying school taxes and everything else. That's why that's in there. The other thing is golf and bowling. When Del Webb turned that over to the RCSC, he did not want bowling or golf to bankrupt this community. That's why when he gave it to us for the first year, he made sure he paid the fees and made sure that we didn't go bankrupt. And he said they had to be self-sustaining. Now, the clubs are covered under your rec fees. But just to let everyone know, pickleball, I hear pickleball, everybody says they should have a user fee. Pickleball paid $80,000 this year for lighting. So these clubs, they don't collect the money, but they do put back in. If one club can put in $80,000, that's a lot for a club. So, it's a pretty good deal here, and there's ins and outs. You have to know about everything. It sounds like, they're ripping us off here or there, but if you learn all the ins and outs, you see there's reasons behind everything. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Beaudry, and you guys have given a lot of great information out today. A lot of numbers, just things that we have to listen to and have to pay attention to. Unfortunately, we didn't get any flyers when we came in. Is there a reason for that? In other words, there wasn't anything back on the table.
Oh, flyers, okay.
Just that you're able to go back and go home. You can talk to your neighbors. You can talk to, your friends and everything else and say, this is what they're proposing. And because you can see there's not a small segment of the people that are here.
So in response to that, we did send out, and it was a 5 or 6 page excerpt of that 20-some page presentation. We emailed that out to everybody so that you would have some idea what was coming. Right. But to print 100 or several hundred copies of the whole presentation seemed like that's a lot of trees. But I understand. If you want to give me your email address, we'll send you a copy.
It's something that everybody should get coming in the door, even if we have to budget it. The budget is probably the most important thing that we have going in any community. And to be able to not have something in your hand, be able to sit there and watch it. So just a suggestion, on Wednesday, you might have that here. Thank you.
It was on the computer, was it not? You say it was mailed, it was emailed, correct?
It was emailed. It was not printed.
Yes, it was emailed. Everybody should have received the email.
But it wasn't done in the detail that was presented today, and I think that's what he's asking for.
Well, I am asking for the detail, but as far as the emails, I did not get that email. For whatever reason, I did not.
It goes through the email blast. You normally get the email blast from the RCSC.
Generally.
It was one of those that was sent out.
Okay, either I get it or my wife gets it, and we didn't see it. Probably our fault, but it's still something this important. I think you could probably take the time and the effort.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike Conway, first I'd like to thank you for the time that you put in. I know it's not easy. I've owned property in Sun City with my mom since 1985, and then I've been here full time for about 12 or 13 years. You had a slide that showed turnover in Sun City for the employees at 40%, I think it was. I have a question on that. I think when you put it that way and you indicated that you pay below market wages, so the presumption is that the reason you have a 40% turnover, which sounds high, is because you're not paying people enough money. Now, what I would find interesting is, of all the employees you have for Sun City, you said 300, is that about right? How many are residents here? And I think there should be a preference to hire people who live in Sun City who have the ability and want to work. And when people leave the job, people here are like anywhere, but maybe with a few exceptions. When people leave a particular job, it could be to get a better job, which is your presumption, which I don't think is necessarily accurate. Sometimes they're not able to work any longer, and that causes a turnover. I don't know how you define market rates, but I think it's very important. If you hire somebody, especially in who's a Sun City resident, pay him the market rate, and encourage hiring first for people from Sun City. I mean, you can't discriminate against people under the different laws, but you can give them preference. And then when people do leave, ask them why they're leaving. And then you can find out whether it's for wages or health or some other reason. So that's all I have.
I believe, sir, that Human Resources does an exit interview so that they know what's going on.
Well, then tell us what's going on.
And to give you an example, we did raise rates for our groundskeepers for golf courses to get them up close to the market rate. Our turnover for our groundskeepers is down 30% this year because of it. So we have been raising, as the presentation said, to get us up to market rates so that we are competitive with other people. And by far, the largest majority of employees in Sun City and in the RCSC is Sun City residents, so that number is being taken care of.
Well, you said there's 300 employees, so how many are Sun City residents? What's the problem with telling us how many people are residents here?
Look behind you. Kevin will give you the information. Kevin, you want to?
I would just throw in 2 cents here and say, there's nothing wrong with hiring Sun City residents. They're excellent employees. They work hard. They show up on time. They're terrific folks. They're also 75. We do have concerns that there are riding around on a mower may not be that bad for a 75-year-old, but digging an irrigation system on a golf course, that might be asking a little too much. The downside here, or the trade-off here, is workman's comp versus other benefits that some employees would require. Our workman's comp situation, and some of the, and not to speak ill of the Sun City employee, but they are older. They do tend to have more trips and spills and sprains, and our workman comp claims tend to be higher as far as the number of claims. The dollar amount of those claims is not necessarily onerous, but it is high, and that does impact us on our overall workman's comp insurance that we have to negotiate once a year. Nothing at all meant to be derogatory towards a Sun City employee, but that's part of Sun City, that's just part of the way it is, that if someone comes in and they're 35, we have to pay them the same market wage. They're likely to take health insurance that is more expensive because it's family insurance rather than a single type of thing. And they're less likely to incur, not that it doesn't happen, but it's less likely that we will incur workman's comp claims on a workforce that's much younger. So you do have to mix it. You can't be discriminatory. We certainly do not intend to do anything like that. But I can't deny that in the back of your mind, you kind of look at that diversification of your workforce, and you kind of want to make sure, if you can, that the less strenuous jobs go towards the older worker and the more strenuous things for the younger one. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to know just how many residents are working here.
Well, he may be.
You're going to tell us. Okay.
I am going to tell you.
Okay.
So I'm Kevin McCurdy. I'm the finance director here. About 2/3 of our employees are Sun City residents, so about 66%. To answer your question about turnover, about half of our turnover is people that are retiring. We have, as I just said, we have a lot of our employees are Sun City residents, hitting that 65, 66, 67. So about half of our turnover is related to retirement or medical reasons that a person can no longer work. The other half is what I would consider controllable, right? It's pay. It's, hey, I don't like my boss, I'm leaving, that kind of thing. So it's about half of our turnover that's related to retirement/medical reasons, and half that is other. I'm leaving for more money. I'm leaving because I don't like my boss. I'm leaving because I don't like the late night shift that I started working. So
2/3 is pretty much consistent year over year for the last several years?
with respect to our employees,
Yeah, as a resident.
being Sun City, yes, that's pretty, it remains pretty consistent.
And how much below market would you say the wages are paid? Because that was the point that was made. We paid below market.
We tried to be pretty targeted with some of the wage increases, because in some positions, I'll give you a couple right off the top of my head, golf irrigation and golf mechanics, very technical, very skilled jobs. We were probably 30 to 40% below market 2 years ago. So we've had to really bring those up to retain our skilled, trained employees. I don't want you
But that may not be a whole lot of number of jobs, though, 20, 30 people, I don't know.
But we also have skilled people in IT, we have skilled people in accounting, we have skilled people in HR, right? You have to pay, we don't pay what I would consider market wages, but we've gotten a lot closer in the last 2 years.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Instead of standing up in the back, if you want to come and sit in the front, that's what a lot of people are doing.
Hi, Cheryl McLean. Piggybacking on the last speaker, the reason the rates are going up is, like you said, let's pay market rate. Well, that's why they're going up. We need to do that to keep our employees. When you signed up here, well, first of all, I'm a second generation Sun City, and I've been here 18 years. When we signed our papers to move in here, whether it was as a couple or a single, we knew what our amount was going to be, and we knew it was going to go up. We didn't come in here thinking, well, we're a couple now, someday I'm going to be single for death reason, and so I'm going to be able to have my fee slashed in half. We knew that when we moved in here, as everyone, even whether you came in single or a couple. And I think that you did speak that if we budgeted, it's easier to budget per household than per person, because that's going to change all the time. And this person speaking about why their 55 or less than 55-year-old daughter owns a home here, why she can't use it. Well, again, you knew that when you bought. When she bought, she knew she was going to have to pay the assessment fee, and she knew that she wasn't going to be able to be here. Someone spoke about the monthly, or the printouts, why we didn't get this in printout today. If you come to the meetings every month, as I do, twice a month, you will get printouts, and all your answers will, all these questions you have will be shown to you, and it's also online. And one thing that wasn't brought up, but it was put out on one of the screens, was discussion about the foundation. That was not brought up, but it has been brought up at the monthly meetings, and if you have excess money, everyone, contribute to that so that it can help those that cannot afford their foundation fee. So if you want to speak on that, because it was on one of the screens about the foundation, being able to help people that cannot afford their assessment. Thank you. And thank you for all you all did working on the budget. I know that was a lot of work. Thank you.
Good morning, or maybe it's afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is, but
Still morning.
thank you all, volunteers, board members, staff, for the presentation that you presented today. I know it took hours and hours of your time. I would like to suggest that all the deck, even the backup slides that you seem to have on hand, go ahead and post online under the finance budget and audit page. You can find all of the 2024 proposed there as well. So please have that available to everyone. 5,000 people, only 5,000 people in Sun City receive e-notifications. So when you send out an e-blast, it's just a drop in the bucket. So please consider, I'm always promoting, sign up for it. If you want to be in the know, sign up for it. Maybe you need to do a big article in the update, but don't assume that sending out an e-blast or e-notice is going to reach many people. It doesn't, okay? My apologies, sir, I did not hear your name. You presented the financial status information? You.
Les Bethany.
Bethany? Thank you for that. Also, I'm assuming, and you know what they say about people who assume, but will this video, it was videotaped, it's going to be available online? Yes. So people can hopefully even see it prior to coming on Wednesday night? Mm-hmm. Because as you indicated, it was appreciated what you provided in the few slides that was attached to the e-blast, but it's minimal. You know, we need as much information coming to this, so some of these questions could have been addressed had we had that available. So I think I almost cried when the gentleman came up and started talking about how unfair our assessments are to single members. I've been talking about it since I moved here 18 years ago. And, well, we just can't do that. It's too difficult to figure that out. How come all those other Sun cities are able to find a way to do that? It's only fair that if you're going to play, you pay, regardless of your status. If you want to have a membership access, which is not guaranteed in facilities agreement, says nothing about the amenities access, only says you're going to be paying this. So please figure it out. It needs to be fair to all of us. I didn't expect to play for nothing, and I'm happy to pay the $600. It is a value. But everybody needs to participate in our system. You don't give one away. Thank you.
And ma'am, just to let you know, this did go out on multiple sources. I believe that the independent mentioned we're going to have town hall meetings. It's been on bulletin boards, so we are trying to get out different ways. We realize that you can't only do it by email blast. We're desperately trying to get better ways to do it.
The information, that wasn't in the independent. Everybody was wanting to have a handout or, you know, how to access not just 4 or 5, which were fine, but there's so much more, and we should have it.
Okay, thank you.
Susan Bjork. I just wanted to come up and clarify that there is much more to salaries and targeting just the market that I think people here it might behoove them to understand that in corporations, you look at a total reward strategy for your employees, and that includes benefits and salaries, and you determine a strategy around whether or not you want to be leading the market, lagging the market in both of those areas, because benefits do cost. There are things called surveys that are done, and you want to use surveys that garner submission from viable corporations. On those surveys, you have a range for different types of titles. You look up the description of the job, and there's a median rate that's listed, 25th percentile and 75th percentile. That median, 50% of the people are paid above that, 50% of the people are paid below that. Most corporations will target that median, but there are other factors that drive the salary. And what drives the salary is performance. And you talk about skilled workers. Yes, we have skilled workers, and they may be on a scale of some sort. So the scale will range from, 1 to 10. And here are the rates. And you're looking at other corporations to see what type of rates that they provide, but it's also based on the skill of the employee and what rate they land on. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all. It's, you have to look at the company strategy, you have to look at the benefits, you have to look at the people in the roles, and then you determine the salary. So that, I would hope that the HR group is doing, and because Kevin brought up that they are doing the termination exit interviews, and apparently most of them are retirees, so they should have that information, so that should help them determine strategies going forward for those employees that are leaving. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, you can understand that you're not just going to pay one rate. And hopefully that will help all of you understand that it's not just a one-size-fits-all person. This is what I do for a living. Then I wanted to give you an example of what many people have been complaining about, the one rate per roof. When I purchased here, after my dad passed, I was not of age. I wasn't of age until my husband turned 55, and that was, I think, 8 years later. And that was when I could start using the facilities. However, what I do want to say is that I don't use the facilities that much because I go to my friends' places, I go to my cousins, so that we can do what we want to do without having to limit her to 14 times a year, which I have a different perspective on that because I pay for the facilities. I should be able to bring my friend. Clubs is different. But the bottom line is I don't use the facilities. So if we go to one per person and I don't use the facilities, am I going to be able to say, no, I don't want to pay for the rate? No, probably not. So I think I understand the rooftop rule. And if you listen to that gentleman, he said he did the research. YMCA costs a single over $600 a year. You're paying $575 if you're single or you have two under the household. I don't use the facilities, my husband does. But that is way less, and you're getting way more opportunity here than what you would get at the YMCA. So I think this is just, you also have to look at the fact that we have 30,000 homes. I think that slide it would behoove us to change it a little bit. Les and Candy, you did a wonderful job, and Les, you did a great job explaining the economies of scale with the Sun City West homes. There's only 18,000. They only have 4 facilities to manage. We have so many more facilities to manage that $575 is spread across those 8 facilities. So I think they're doing a wonderful job with the fees. And yes, they do have to go up because clearly we have to deal with the maintenance issue. And so I just think that if you really look at what you have, and the fact that we're trying to raise the rate so that we can improve things, that's what the focus should be. So I hope that helped you understand the salaries and the total reward strategy and, where salaries and benefits and all that cost comes from.
Thank you. We'll ask you to speak at the next town hall also.
Good morning, Ann Whitley. I would respectfully request that you modify the when you talked about 40% turnover of employees and tied that to income disparity with other jobs, really, when we looked at all the information you gave us, it's actually 20% of those employees who are rendering their termination to look for a better paying position, not 40%. So 40% turnover is a very high. That caught my attention immediately. But when you adjust it, and after you do your exit interviews, you have a better understanding of why people are choosing to terminate. Sounds like 20% is really tied to looking for a job with more hourly salary. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess as a retired IT engineer, I'm roped into that 5,000 people that do electronic stuff. Latest email I received about the town hall meetings, which came out on the 17th of October, has no attachment to it. It talks about the presentation of the 2025 budget. This would have been a premium place that if you were going to put the slides out electronically, it's a short time, so there's probably not going to be any changes between the email and the meeting date for this to happen. But I'm on the mailing list for RCSC stuff, and I have not seen anything that came out with a attachment, because I will take the time to look at the slides if there is an attachment to it. So I agree, it is really handy for the people that do and do not have their name on the email list to have a hard copy of something there to hand out at the beginning of the meeting. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm sorry you did not get that, because I know that was attached to at least a blast. Perhaps
Got a date on that?
They're getting the date for you.
She'll have it for you right there, and then you'll be able to look it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Just a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hearing this blast thing, okay? What's the difference between the notifications we get from RCSC normally where everybody gets them? I'm with these people. I didn't get it. I go to every flippin' meeting here, no matter which committee it is, just about, okay? I did not get it, okay? Now, what's the blast? If it's a new IT thing that we're supposed to be looking for, then we need to be schooled on that?
No,
it's the same thing that you do every time. It was sent out, the budget information was sent out in the same way that your meeting notices, they all go through the same system. So we'll look into why that happened. I'm
because
not
I
sure.
didn't get it either. I was real surprised when I walked in here and there wasn't a piece of paper, like somebody said. It was like, am I in the right place?
We'll look into it.
You always have it here.
Okay, we'll look into it, because when I got one, I saw it, so we'll look into why some people didn't get it. That's unfortunate. We apologize.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't need to sign up for some other thing.
Hello, Brad Schrader. As several people have commented, just one after another, I did not get any attachment with anything. All I got was the notice of town hall meetings. You need to get that information somehow to everybody, because there are a lot of line item things on there that people are going to want to discuss. Me in particular, I would like to address the golf fees. The only reason that today I know that there's going to be an increase is because I went to the golf advisory meeting. And as far as I'm concerned, from the rate we paid on the surcharge card in 2022, went up in 2023, went up in 2024, sounds like they're recommending 2 increases in 2025. It's going to end up being a 300% increase in 3 years. That is way, way, way above inflation rate. Looking at the financials that are presented at the board meetings, every month this year in 2024, Golf has run under previous year, way under budget. You're losing money on cart rentals, you're losing money on snack shop. You're going to lose more golfers if you institute this huge rate increase. And to me, that's what we should be discussing here, is to get input from the members on line items so that you need to know what to address before it is presented to the board. Thank you.
I have the email, October 15th at 5:20 p.m.
Okay. I'd like to address that a little bit. You saw on one of the slides how much costs have gone up in large percentages, and a lot of those large percentages were things that were related to golf, with utilities and grass seed and fertilizer and weed killer. So we had a choice in the Golf Advisory Committee on what we had to do. We couldn't raise rates anymore for outside play, for the daily rates, because those were competitive with everybody else. We lost revenue this year because we did raise rates last year. The ones that we haven't really raised much in the last few years have been the surcharge and the no-fee rates. Golf is going to be several $100,000 below under budget this year because we've lost revenue. The only way to try and make that up is the only way you can do that is either you have to find a way to raise rates, and the resident rates did not go up comparatively to all the other rates in the last few years. We've kept them down. We just can't do that anymore. Or we have to stop doing things. We have to not hire as many people. We have to stop taking care of our courses that way. And the Golf Advisory Committee said that wasn't a wise way to go. So we have to find a way to raise revenue. And the only way to do that seemed to be by raising the resident rates. And I'm in the same bucket you are. My rates are gonna go up a lot too, and I'm not crazy about it, but it's the only way to maintain the state of play that we have on our courses. Anything else they're just gonna go downhill further, and the Golf Advisory Committee didn't think that was a wise path.
Hi, Tom Marone. I just want to say that I did receive the email blast, but you also had to click on an additional link that was in that email blast that those 4 or 5 slides did come up. So I don't know if people aren't reading the entire email and you're just overlooking it or what, but they did come with the email. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for your comments. But if you raise rates and you lose 10% of your golfers, and then you put a big increase on, and you lose how do you project how many more golfers you're going to lose? What are you gaining? If you raise rates, I mean, it's like a retail store. If they're not making enough money, so they raise their prices, people weren't shopping before. They're not going to shop on the raised prices. They're going to go somewhere else.
Well,
and as far as being competitive, if you're looking at the private courses that are around, you better look at what they offer. Because at their rates, all of them give you a free golf cart, they give you free range balls. We get none of that. We have to pay for a cart if we need to rent a cart. We have to pay for range balls. Now you're going to increase rates by $500 in 1 year. You're going to lose more golfers. You're going to go down under budget that much further. It just don't make any sense.
Sir, we didn't compare rates with private courses. We compared rates at Sun City West and Coyote Lakes and Union Hills and Palm Brook, because that's our real competition. And even with the raises that we have, our rates are still far below what is paid in other courses. So even though our rates are going up, and the reason that they have to go up is just like you saw with the budget numbers, for 6 years, the no-fee pass and the surcharge rate didn't change at all. They stayed absolutely the same for 6 years. In the meantime, all of our costs went up dramatically. At some point, you have to have your rates equal what your costs are going to be, and because in the past, they weren't raised to keep up with things. At some point, you've either got to you've got to find a way to catch up to them, or your golf course is just going to go downhill, and we don't want that to happen.
If you don't have the golfers, the golf courses are going to go downhill too, because you still won't have the money.
That's one of the risks, and I'm sorry that they're going up, but we didn't see any other way around it.
Hi, my name is Sue Brooks. I just want to point out that if every member paid the same fee, you wouldn't have to raise our fees. You'd probably could lower our fees if every member and every privilege card paid the same fee. So that might be something to think about as well.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to point out that I'm not complaining about the 575 or even the 650 as far as myself is concerned. I'm complaining that I pay the same as a couple does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a couple and you're not married, and they own the property, they pay the 575, and the other person pays 275. So maybe a couple needs to pay $850, whether they're married or not.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your input, and thank you for the really valuable comments you made. Please remember to turn on your cell phones. We will be back here at Sundial at 5 o'clock on Wednesday evening. And if you have any additional comments or want to come revisit some of it, you're more than welcome to come again on Wednesday evening. And thank you so much for your participation. Have a good day.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.